This is Roseville Area Schools, and this topic is preparing tomorrow's workforce. Spark, STEAM-based approach to closing the achievement gap. Thank you guys for being here. Go for it.
Thank you. My name is Becky Burkus, and I'm the principal at Central Park Elementary in Roseville.
My name is Miles Lawson. I am one of the curriculum coordinators for Roseville Area Schools.
And we are excited to come to talk to you today a little bit about a new program that we have started at Central Park. But I also wanted to give you a little bit of a grounding of who we are and why this is important to us at Roseville and at Central Park in particular. I feel really far away from some of you back there, but I'll just keep talking to you. We are a first-ring suburb, and most folks aren't necessarily thinking that Central Park might be as diverse as it is. We have 77% of our students are free and reduced. We have 24 different home languages spoken. 38% of our students are learning English and coming from a variety of backgrounds. Some have not been in school before they come, and it's just a really great school community to have there. We have about 35% of our students are Asian Pacific Islander, about 26% of our students are Black, about 19% are Hispanic, and about 19% are white students. So we come from all over, and we come together in a very unique and awesome school right there in the heart of Roseville. We have also had a little trouble getting our test scores to where we want them to be, so we are also a focus school, and we've been working closely with the Center for Excellence around a lot of different pieces.
We're here to talk about Spark, and no, it's not an acronym. It's just we like it so much it's all capitals. So so it started off with, it doesn't stand for anything other than creativity and fun and great learning. And so Spark is what we're here to talk about. Spark is a program that we have at Central Park, and at Central Park Elementary and Roseville Schools. And so what I'm going to do is start with a little bit of background and research so that when we talk about things later on and when we show you some things from the actual Spark experience, it'll make sense why we chose what we did with the program. And so, just in your mind, already think Spark is a program at Central Park. We happen to have a lab room that is there with a lead teacher teaching within the Spark program. So just remember that. And what we were trying to do is, at Central Park, we were looking for ways to expand what we were doing with our students, because sometimes, and you all know this too in your settings, is that we can get too compartmentalized in what we do, and too segmented in the way that we approach instruction and learning, that we wanted Spark to be something different than that. We wanted to make sure we were explicit about English language development, opportunity to learn, 21st century skills. You see all these things up here. And so what we were going to do with Spark needed to address each one of these areas. So, first of all, and this is something as a curriculum coordinator I pay a lot of attention to, that first bullet, some of you have probably heard this before, but students who are English learners in our schools, at least in Roseville schools probably too, is that 2% of their day they spend with some kind of oral language development. Only 2% of the day, on average, that our students who are English learners at different levels spend developing oral language. And so that's a little bit of an issue. If we're talking about learning, that's going to be an issue, because if they aren't talking with other kids about things, then they aren't learning about things. Learning is a social thing. And so we wanted to make sure that what we do with Spark increases the amount of time our students are talking with each other, that they are talking with the teacher. And so what we're doing in Spark is going to address that. For those of you who've heard of that famous fellow, Dr. Marzano, he talks a lot about opportunity to learn, and we recognize both locally and just nationally that that it's a big deal if kids don't have a chance to learn it, if they aren't exposed to it, if they don't have opportunities to be engaged with it, they can't learn it. They don't have a chance at it. So we found through different program evaluations that many of our students were not having the opportunity to learn science in our schools because they were receiving intervention for math or for reading. And so they just didn't have a chance to learn it. And so Spark is an intentional way to mitigate that. Every student will be experiencing Spark at Central Park. 21st century skills, these are all the buzzwords you hear a lot about, all those C's, but they are the things that we're going to have students do inside the Spark Lab. They will be doing innovation. They will be collaborating with other students. They will be analyzing and being really deep thinkers about what they're doing. We're not just going to have the I can do this skill. It's more of here's a spot where you can be creative and innovative and you can do things that we can't have in the past imagined doing. And we're going to give you the resources to do those things. A lot of you have also heard about integrated project-based learning. Well, we're going to make sure that when students go into this lab, this Spark program, this room, they're going to be doing things that are divergent in what they're trying to get at. We're not trying to converge on a central thought or a central skill. We're going to give them the resources and the questions that will let them go wide open, and they can attack this learning through a project-based approach rather than a series of sequenced steps that they would use to learn the content. And then this is something I definitely pay a lot of attention to. And I don't know if this is true in your schools, and it's certainly true just more nationally as well, but in Roseville, we do really, really good preparing students for college, post-secondary institutions, 2 4-year degrees. One area we really could work more on is career preparation. And this is information that comes from the Minnesota Department of Economics and Employment, the DEEDS, and they do a lot of things around outlook and forecasts for jobs. And there are a ton of jobs that do not require 2 or 4-year degrees. And they're gainful employment. And you will have, people can get into these lines of field and make a great living, have full health care. And so, but a lot of those things we don't provide enough experience in. And so what that gets to is things like this. This is not the Spark Lab, but this certainly represents what we try to do there. In that lab, we have amazing technologies like 3D printers. We have things like these laser engravers. We got the Lego We Do kits. We have all these wonderful high-tech, high-touch stuff. We've also got a bunch of PVC pipe, putting together circuits and things that aren't going to be so what you consider technology, current technology, but things that will give students opportunities to see what they can do after high school. And plumbing challenges or using dominoes. But we're going to have a lot of that. We have a lot of that in the Spark Lab. And this is where students will be doing all the things we've been talking about. And so that's the background behind it all. That's what led into what you're about to see, the next 2 things. This was the less exciting part, but the necessary part, the sufficient part is coming up.
Well, Miles is getting that video up because we asked students, what's different this year? What do you like about the Spark Lab, and what do you like about Central Park? And you're going to hear you're going to hear their voices. But what I want to give you a little bit more background on is how this came to be in context of a school, so that we can make changes and move people forward in a relatively short period of time. Because I'm starting my 2nd year at Central Park this year. And so last year when I came fully intending just to listen and take in information, and I did that. And then things started to sort of come together. And that is where the power of all of this is. And what you're going to be hearing about, the other speakers are talking about that coming together. And that is a dynamic that you can't skip over. It can't be just because it's great research and really good practices. But this came from my own observations, noticing that our kids were quite quiet and not engaging a lot in interacting and in the content areas. And then it came from noticing that a teacher came and said, you know, we've got some Legos tucked away up on the closet. And I said, we've got Legos on the closet? Let's get those down. And opening up a box and just seeing the potential for our students. And then it was Rotary wanting to partner in a new way with a school in Roseville. And it was some awesome opportunities that really came together. I met with the staff and I said, so we have talked about wanting to do something different. at Central Park because our students look different than they do in some other Roseville schools. And we know that they're geniuses. We know that these kids have so much to offer. What do you want to do? And we unpack that into just these awesome characteristics that are the school we are becoming. And so it's just, that piece can't be overlooked, right? We've got lots of research, we've got lots of ideas, and they have to all work together. And now you're going to hear from the students.
Well, the Spark Lab program is intended to be experiences for our students in science, engineering, and technology. And we also are trying to move towards a more integrated approach so that students, as they're learning in their classrooms and their daily instruction, that we're incorporating those areas into their day-to-day activities with project-based learning.
In the Spark Lab, we get to make bubbles, and I learned making different shapes, still makes the bubbles like a circle. I like the Spark Lab because it's really brought ideas to my head and that I wouldn't have thought of if it wasn't here. And now I want to do that at my house and do a lot more stuff.
I like the Spark Lab because you get to invent stuff. Like you get to make sand timers and water timers, which I've never done before.
I absolutely would recommend the Spark Lab because it offers an opportunity to kids that don't learn the traditional way. So the kids get a really good chance to shine in ways that they haven't been able to before.
The Spark Lab, I like to build there, and then we make a car without a bottle, and then we make the wheel with the cotton candy caps. I like art and creating stuff and more about engineering. And like when I make stuff, it makes me happy. I like making projects, and they're kind of hard. There's one thing I about roller coasters. Think about how we make the roller coaster.
I like the problems, and we get to make stuff for the solution.
In science and in the engineering process, failure is accepted, it's embraced, it's a safe place to do it.
But if your thing didn't work, then you have to change it and try to make it work.
Oh, that's going fast. Yeah, it is way faster than last subject.
What we're going to write our class name on it so it doesn't get lost.
I just think it's really fun, and I really like it. I think a lot of our kids like it too.
So we put together this little e-magazine which kind of walks through a little bit of the background of who we are and how we got started, which we've explained a bit about that. We also are a school that receives a 21st Century grant, so our out-of-school time programming has also participated in the Spark and in the STEAM process, and so there is daytime and there's school time and there's out-of-school time connections for students through that grant as well. There are some interesting links included in here for you to just ponder. Some of them are some fascinating places that prompt us to think of the future jobs that we don't really know what our students are going to do yet, right? So this trimester we have started off with engineering, and the kids have had a variety of different experiences. We have a partnership with the Works Museum. They've come to us, we're going to them. They've helped with some family engagement pieces. So it's been, and they've also done professional development with our teachers. Trimester 2, we're doing computer science and coding with students. There are, and robotics as well. So depending on your age and your grade level, that is the experiences that students are right in the midst of. And then also to our advantage, we have a nature center, Harriet Alexander Nature Center, which is right through our playground, and there's a hole in the fence, and we go right down the path, and we're in a fabulous nature environment. And so just building on the opportunities that are a part of who we are and what's close to us. So in trimester 3, they are looking at nature, and really there's lots of engineering that goes on. We've got bees in the hives, and we've got beavers in dams, and we've got lots of different ways to spark that imagination with students and that interest and creativity to science is all around us. And I would venture that if you asked any elementary age student, what do you wish you could do more of? They would answer, they want to do science.
We want kids to be able to come up and still be curious about things, to be able to ask a scientific question, to have wondering around that. And so phase 1 is right here and now. And so we knew that for this to launch, we would have to have it rely with this lab, the Spark lab. And so in year 2, we're going to be asking our teachers to take a little bit more of ownership in the program. So Sarah will meet with students still. They'll still come to the lab. But it'll be more often that maybe the classroom teachers, having gone through a whole year of this now, will see these connections in the lab with what they're regularly teaching their school day, and be able to make those, and maybe check out the Spark lab to come in and do some things there, or get some of the materials from the lab, bring them into their classroom to teach whatever they're about to teach in their regularly scheduled programming. So, and then we fully transition in year 3 to this ought to be sustainable. This ought to be sustainable. It should be something that can carry on beyond Sarah, beyond the lab, beyond me, Becky. And so that's when the teachers really will take the lead on that, and it'll be incorporated and integrated into the process. Not just as we wrap this up, it's one thing to put like a Spark lab in place and all these fancy things and a lead teacher leading this, but it does come back to it's because we're trying to reduce and eliminate the racial disparities we see in performance and achievement and growth and participation, because if we have students speaking more often, or if they're collaborating more often with each other, they're doing things they couldn't have done in a typical classroom, we believe that's the way that they can get to where they want and need to be in terms of their outcomes. So it's not just a spot that's cool and fancy. It's the right energy with the right people doing the right things. And it's nothing but positive. We have, knock on wood, we haven't had anything go wrong yet. So, and that's not usually the case. It's going that well. Students, staff, feeling really good about where it's going to go.
All right. Becky and Miles, thank you very much.